Man, I'm glad we got a chance to start watching what Amanda Christovich was doing during so many of college football's stories, including, of course, the settlement and now the NIco Iamaleava story. She did a great inside story on that, including some sources within the camp of NIco. Amanda, great to see you again. Thank you very much for your time. Did they reach out to you or did you find them?
Great question. I reached out to them. I actually was interested in doing a story about what actually folks in Congress were thinking on this question of whether or not there should be federal agent restrictions and regulation in the wake of this story. And my editor kind of said, well, if we're going to do that, we're sort of implying something negative about NIco's camp, so let's reach out to him for comment. So that's what I did, not expecting to hear anything back. And his handler got on the phone with me for like close to an hour. And then, I heard later in the day, he was on the circuit trying to basically talk to any reporter who would listen.
So, Amanda, the things that we've heard thrown about, like it's not about money. Now Colin Cowherd's reporting it's about the offense. Did it feel like damage control a little bit to you? Because if it's not about any of that, then what's it about? Like in the offense thing really doesn't make sense given they've known who the coach is going to be for 5 months.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was part of the playbook, I think, that they had with what they told me, which was not the offense, but specifically, specific parts of the offense. They wanted a better offensive line. They wanted a better arsenal of receivers, and that, didn't seem to be materializing. And they made it, the handler was very clear to me. He was like, it had nothing to do with money. We didn't even negotiate. We didn't even ask for a raise. Look, this is a he said, she said, but multiple people told me that was a lie. Multiple people. Okay. So, maybe it wasn't the only reason. Maybe, the roster construction was played a role, but ultimately multiple people said that NIco's camp asked for a raise during the winter portal opening, and that the collective attempted to be amenable to at least give counter offers, and that NIco's camp was unresponsive, and they were didn't really seem willing to have legitimate conversations. And that when last week rolled around, the collective wasn't sure if he was staying or going. The school wasn't sure if he was staying or going because, they hadn't heard, concretely either way. And so I think this semantics that this game that his handler tried to play with me about, well, we didn't have any negotiations last week, so that report from On3 was a lie. I don't think it was a lie because if you want to argue you didn't answer the phone or get on the phone on Wednesday or Thursday, that doesn't mean that you didn't ask for more money. And it doesn't mean that you didn't that you told your collective and the people on the other side of the table that you were okay with what you currently had.
So, Amanda, the article is very well worth reading for anybody who hasn't checked it out. And you mentioned this in the article, but who are his representatives? Who are these people when you talk about – because it's weird to hear college football handlers in this, but that's where we are now, right? So this isn't Lee Steinberg. This isn't Drew Rosenhaus. Who are these people that you're talking to and representing NICO in all of this?
Protect your online privacy with Nord VPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
So NICO's father, Nick, nicknamed Big Nick, he's not the only person. He's not the sole decision maker, but the buck stops with him, is what I was told. Then there is this coach named Cordell Landers who used to work for the University of Florida and who was fired for an NCAA investigation, was my understanding. And he's based in California. And there's a lawyer who's also kind of in this group who I had never heard of before. None of them, as far as I understand it, are certified agents in any sense of the word. And, I mean, look, another source of mine called Cordell Landers a quote street agent. And there are lots of these folks who, some of them have ill intentions, some of them don't have ill intentions, but they just give bad advice. I'm not really interested in kind of trying to talk about what the intentions of these folks are. I would imagine Nico's dad wants what's best for him, but these are not professionals. And clearly they have steered him into a situation where, I'm working on confirming this UCLA report.
Mm-hmm.
But actually I have a text right now.
Yeah. You can take a second to look at it. Go ahead. Break
No,
the news on our show, Amanda.
Nothing new, but what I have is that, look, UCLA was pursuing him, and the number is low that they're willing to offer or capable of offering is lower than what he was making at Tennessee. So clearly they've steered him into a situation that just isn't as good. And I'm saying that as a UCLA fan. My mom went there. I'm from LA. I love UCLA, but I mean, come on, guys. Like you can't argue that they have sent him into a better situation.
What do you think, and this is a hypothetical, if you had a chance to talk to Nico, what do you think he would tell you if he could be honest about it?
That's a really tough question because I have personally never spoken with him. I have heard only the nicest things about him.
Mm-hmm.
I have only ever heard, that the biggest criticism anyone could make of him is that, maybe he's overslept and missed an NIL event or two, which is that responsible? No, but I mean, have we all done that as teenagers? Have we all overslept and missed things? Sure. I think he would say that he is just focused on being a quarterback, and he doesn't, he leaves everything else to the people that he trusts. And I think that's unfortunate because the people he trusts don't seem to be steering him in the right direction. Amanda
Christovich, Front Office Sports, with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah, multiple people reporting the UCLA thing now, Amanda, that's where it's going to go. And that's just, it's very interesting and kind of poses the larger question over what should parents' roles be in this? Once you're trying to get your kid signed and get your kid in college, because at that point, in most instances, they're a minor or they've just, become a legal adult. But once you're in, what should the role really be?
I mean, look, I can't speak for, any particular parent, but here's the thing. There's nothing precluding a parent from being at the table with the player, with the player's agent, with the player's lawyer. The issue for the parent is not that the parent is in the room, it's that the parent is calling the shots, and that the parent has given the power to frankly, somebody who does not have a good reputation in the industry, who is not a part of a reputable agency. And by the way, not every agent part of a well-known or reputable agency is a good agent, right? I'm not saying that. But really the question is, if you're a parent, you need to be vetting the people who are going to be helping you do these negotiations. And, Cordell Landers and Big Nick have been friends since the 10th grade. But that doesn't, I have friends since I was in high school. That doesn't mean that I would sign up to let them negotiate the rest of my life, Right. I mean, so I think the role of the parent needs to be helping to vet who is going to represent the player in making these decisions and who is going to advise them and who is going to be the legal counsel. In this instance, unfortunately, the role of the parent has extended far beyond that, first of all. being one of the negotiators themselves, and second of all, have, entrusted folks who, again, are just clearly not qualified to steer, a great quarterback who has NFL potential.
So, Amanda, the only two ways the sport really changes, antitrust exemption or what's the alternative? The collective bargaining agreement, right? I mean, that's the only things that can really change anything here. But do you feel like this is a turning point? A lot of people wanted to point to that on Friday, like this is the change that we needed to kind of rebalance college sports. Do you feel that way? Do you think this makes a big dent in the big picture, or is it just the same old, and just a fun tale?
I don't think it makes a dent at all, at least from the on the congressional level. It doesn't make a dent at all. It doesn't mean it's not a conversation. It doesn't mean that it's not something, that will be pointed to as a reason why, agent regulation, whether agent regulation equals federal legislation or antitrust exemption to give the NCAA the power to do that regulation, or it means collective bargaining and then the union can set those standards. Like, again, I don't think this is going to affect that debate either way. But as we've talked about on this show a lot, Congress has got a lot going on. And even though this is the biggest story for us right now, it doesn't even crack the top 10 for Congress. And the folks that I have spoken with in Congress do not, seem, I haven't gotten a chance to speak to a lot of them because I've been working on the story, but they didn't give me an indication that this was going to speed up the process in any way, shape, or form from their perspective.
Craig Bull from the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association, his office is like a mile and a half from where we are here in Waco. And he mentioned when he released a statement, I think it was on Friday or whenever it was, about making sure college football gets certified agents. Would that have taken care of this problem a little bit or helped this problem out?
It's hard to say because on the one hand, if you have to have a certified agent in order to sign an agreement, whether that be because of a federal law or an NCAA rule, then I think technically, yes, if, these agents couldn't get certified for one reason or another because of their reputation or lack of credentials, etc. But on the other hand, it's my understanding that in the NFL, you're allowed to represent yourself or have a parent represent you if you so choose. And the federal bill that addresses this issue that is currently in the one that they're currently talking about in Congress would only require that if you don't have a registered agent, your agent is your agent notifies you or your legal guardian, and you all sign off that person can represent you even though they're not certified. It doesn't prevent them from representing you. So in this case, I don't think it would have saved Nico.
Amanda, this is one of the things I wonder, eventually, when we get to, because we're going to get to collective bargaining eventually, because it's and maybe an antitrust exemption like the NFL has, and they have all that. I wonder if the NFLPA and college football create some sort of partnership so that, if you're vetted by the NFLPA, then you can also be certified by that group as well, and that's who you should be using as opposed to, street agents or whatever.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I do remember kind of at the beginning of the NIL era that there was some push to allow folks who weren't able to be certified by the NFLPA to represent players because of the stringent guidelines and what degrees you have to have. And I frankly don't cover the NFL on a daily basis, so I don't remember the specifics. But it was kind of like a fair market argument that you could, that we shouldn't restrict the representation and, at this point. But clearly, I've been told that this story is a dime a dozen. That's the other important thing here, right? Nico's not the only one. He's not the first and he's not the last. He might just be the most high profile and the one whose street agent is cool with getting on the phone with me and every other national college football reporter out there, whether we, write about what they say or not. So I think that there has to be some sort of regulation going forward. And I can't imagine that it would be a bad thing to at least start with help, having the NFLPA help them. But this isn't even just a football issue is the other thing. It's a basketball issue too. So this is an issue that if you are an entity like the NCAA and you claim to care so much about college athletes, this should be number one on your priority list.
Amanda, thank you very much for all of what you do. We kind of mixed in, well, obviously the story with Nico, but all the other stuff that's going on in the House settlement and just college athletics. You probably never, I think I asked you this one time, when you got into this, you ever thought you would have so many of these type of stories? Although they're going to be legal stories, it just seems like it's every day.
Yeah, no, I come from a family of lawyers, and they said, why don't you go to law school, Amanda? I said, no, I want to be a journalist. I want to cover sports. It's going to be a lot more fun. Joke's on me, right?
Yeah, you're right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Amanda Christovich joins us from Front Office Sports on 365 Sports.